Look at this black box. Doesn't look like much, right? But what if I told you that this piece of tech is the reason your online bank transfer goes through in just seconds, or it's the reason you can buy your latest gadget on Shopee or Amazon, or perform transactions on Alipay or even WeChat Pay, all without a hitch? Yep. This compact beast is holding a massive responsibility. So I traveled to Dongguan, China to check out the Huawei CloudEngine 88654C to tell you why every tap, scan or payment that you make depends on something like this. So every time you transfer a money through a bank app or check out that cart full of items that you purchase online, all of that data, those numbers, orders and the amounts need to go somewhere. Now it flows through a critical path from your app into the bank systems, and that whole entire journey, this box acts as a gateway or a network switch. Where in this case is the Huawei's CloudEngine 88654C, a high performance switch used in data center and campus networks. So why does this matter now more than ever? Well, simply because digital payments are growing rapidly globally. There's a 14.2% annual growth in digital payments, and in countries like Indonesia, real-time payments reach a massive 50 million users in just 3 years. But in China, over 900 million people use mobile payments. That's an 86% penetration rate, and even in remote areas from nearby mountains to old markets and vendors, QR codes are the king. And during the 11/11 period, Alipay has handled over 583,000 transactions per second, and even more so for WeChat Pay. So that's pretty insane, and to make that happen, the gateway needs to be larger to allow more data flow in and out at the same time. So the switch bandwidth had to be big enough. For example, it had to be able to process over 100 GB per second. But here's the catch though, because when this system fails, it's chaos. So during the 2023 earthquakes in Turkey, there were power outages that took down local bank data centers, optical fiber networks totally snapped, and ATM withdrawals and online transfers were delayed by up to 6 hours. And just earlier this year, a UK bank suffered a massive IT fault where customers couldn't even log in for 2 days. That's why the switch behind all of this should not only be fast, but it needs to be error-proof, AI smart and reliable even in a disaster scenarios. So because of this, Huawei has created this, the CloudEngine 88654C, one of Huawei's hot-selling switches for small to medium financial data centers, where it's used over 30 countries with very notable banks like from Singapore, Indonesia, South Africa and more. However, it's not only to use in the financial sector, but also in the health center to government sectors as well. But why is it so powerful in terms of having so much bandwidth? Well, because it's the only product in its class that supports full rate gigabit Ethernet from 1 GE to 400 GE. That's like a data transformer flexing up and down based on what's needed. Now this is because that it can mix and match between 5 different subcards and even split 100 GE ports into 256 times 25 GE interfaces. Now that's more than 15 million financial transfers processed every single second. Now, traditional data center devices have low bandwidth and low density. So if you want to expand any services, you'll need to have to purchase multiple switches to play different roles in data center network. Now, physically, this has a lot of modules and ports if you see over here in front, including fiber optic modules and the RJ45 as seen over here. But it can even be boosted even more if you need to, as there is a purchase of license to upgrade from 100 GE ports to 200 GE. All in all, it's a massive 8 TB per second bandwidth under the hood. Now let's open the switch up, like literally. Well, see this phoenix bird-like structure? So that is the network processor that is totally redesigned, where it is placed vertically on the back plane, hence to reduce the signal loss and also making it faster instead of placing all the load in the front or the middle like traditional switches. So this new structure drops power consumption by 20% and reduces latency. They've also used some ultra high frequency, low loss PCB material with fewer layers going from 24 to 22. But what about heat then? Well, this stays chilled thanks to Huawei's exclusive 90 watts carbon-based thermal pad, which is 15% more effective than last year's generation 70 watt version, where the older generation was like a 4-way wind tunnel, so it didn't really have a very efficient cooling. So now with this, it's like imagining throwing a hot iron on a cool jade. Yep, it cools really fast. But this CloudEngine 88654C doesn't just perform, it is also a survivor. First of all, it has a dual power supply units, triple fan groups with a 1+1 redundancy. On top of that, these fans and the PCUs are also hot swappable, hence the services are uninterrupted. Now it also has a strict front to back airflow design to isolate the hot and cold airflow, where it also has an intelligent fan speed adjustment, so the heat dissipation is improved, and that's the reason why all of this reduces the operating and the maintenance costs, and also keeping the uptime at maximum. So that brings us to a more feature that elevates the switch into the great software and the AI territory. So using AI, the switch can run self-checks and visualize traffic paths. Now that means that when something breaks, the O&M engineers get flagged instantly. So if something happens on inside of the switch, for example, if a data link is broken, the software will make it change immediately to a neighboring channel. So basically it manages traffic very efficiently. Then if the switch is broken, it will direct the entire traffic data to another switch. Or if the entire data server is broken, the software will allow it to have an immediate data transfer to a new backup server. So there's no such thing as just trial and error, as this saves hours of downtime and thousands in cost. And paired with Huawei's exclusive iReliable technology, it can prevent network change errors and guarantee zero service interruption. But because it supports multi-partition and multi-vendor environments, this is built for resilience even in a more complex setup. So here's the deal. This box might not look like much, but on the inside, it's a beast, powering our everyday financial lives, often without us realizing it. Now, with the rise of digital payments, disasters, and AI infrastructure, switches like this CloudEngine 88654C are the unsung heroes, making sure nothing goes wrong because it's fast, it's reliable, and now even smarter than ever.